Hi, Chan. Let's take a look at your new set of essays, shall we? So this is about pollution, reasons, and solutions. Here's what you wrote. In the modern era, the issue of pollution has been getting bad in urban cities, especially for air pollution. I believe that the ever-increasing amount of private cars is the major reason. This essay will analyze this reason and suggest some possible solutions regarding to air pollution. All right, this is fine for the most part. There were a couple of things that I would clean up and maybe improve so that it makes a nice, strong impression. First of all, I don't like this expression right here. It feels very low level in terms of vocabulary. Has been getting bad. The problem with the word bad is that it's so basic. It's like one of the first adjectives students will learn. So good, bad, nice, big, small. They're very common and sometimes they work. But here I felt like you could have done something much more sophisticated that just felt like higher level. Okay. So, how about this? In the modern era, the issue of pollution has been worsening in urban cities. Okay. So, that would have been nice rather than getting bad. You could have said has been worsening. Let's see. You could have said in the modern era, the issue of pollution has um, has gotten has gotten increasingly worse. Well, I know it says worse here too. Maybe you can come up with another word or another expression rather than just getting bad. Okay. Um, then, oh, here's ever increasing. You used it as well. Okay. So I believe the is the major reason. So check it out. You say the major reason. Here, though, they ask for reasons, not what is the reason. So I would have liked if you had had maybe an additional reason or maybe like a blanket reason and, then explored more reasons in your essay. But if you just talk about cars and nothing else, I mean, it could be done and it might be done well. Let's see. I do have some hesitations, so it does give me just some kind of red flags, but okay. So let's see. This essay will analyze. I don't like this reason again. Now, sometimes that works because it feels very cohesive. Here, it didn't feel cohesive to me. Here, it felt repetitive. So let's try it. So you said, I believe that the ever increasing amount of private cars is the major reason. This essay will analyze this issue, maybe. That feels to be more cohesive than this reason, okay? Because you're using lexical cohesion, issue, and reason kind of standing in for each other, and it doesn't feel as repetitive as this. And we'll suggest some possible solutions regarding air pollution. Um, okay, fine. Just get rid of the two. Let's continue. To begin with, there is ample evidence that the significant increase of car ownerships is the biggest contributing to air pollutants. Okay, your grammar and your vocabulary here are problematic. So let's try that again. There is ample evidence that the significant increase of cars on the road is the biggest contributing factor to air pollution. Okay, so you can see I changed a handful of words around. It's not the ownership that's the problem, it's the cars on the road. So it's not how many people own cars, it's the number of cars. The increasing use of private vehicles or automobiles leads to overcrowding on the road, especially in the peak hour. Several thousand automobiles without the of on the main road at the same time could release massive toxic gases into the surroundings, such as carbon dioxide. As a result, these harmful gases could seriously damage the air quality in who is there? Their cities? How about in cities? Okay, I don't know who there refers to, so that's a little strange. For example, the London Forum for Science and Policy shows that road transportation accounts for 45.5% of nitrogen dioxide, which is the largest percentage among the other six causes. Okay. Therefore, it's constructively, no, you don't want to use that word constructive. You want to say conclusively, maybe. Therefore, it is clear that escalating car ownership could be the primary reason for air pollution, not of. Okay, so I told you that I had a little concern about you just citing one reason, even though it says the reasons. I will let it slide because I feel like you did develop this sufficiently to get away with just having one reason. There are a couple other things that I saw as I read it one more time. I don't like this increase and increasing. I would have liked a little bit different vocabulary here. Okay, and there's another thing that's missing for me here. You talk about the number of cars on the road, but there's nothing here in your paragraph that refers specifically to cities. So, based on what you wrote here, this is just air pollution in general, but um, you don't really tell us why it's getting worse in the cities specifically. So, I would have liked some reference to that. Maybe like given the numbers of cars traveling into our urban centers daily, there is a higher concentration of air pollutants. Or you could have said, given the skyscrapers in many of our modern cities, which trap in noxious gases, these are not released. Not they're not released. Hold on. These remain in the atmosphere and affect the air quality around us. So, do you understand what I'm saying? Make it specifically about the cities, whereas I didn't really feel like you did that. This could have been about, cars anywhere in the suburbs, in the country, whatever. Okay. But remember, it's particularly in large cities. So, if you had made some reference to that, I would have liked it. Okay. To reduce the harmful gas emissions, the government should consider alternative resolutions. Firstly, our authorities should promote the importance of cycling to the public. Okay. This is largely because cycling is emission-free transportation, so we are recommended to ride bicycles more frequently. For example, air quality in London shows that the total nitrogen dioxide decreased 14% when some people replaced driving cars with bicycles. Okay. Um, Therefore, the government should encourage people to use cycling and pedestrian lanes regularly. Secondly, the officials should plan to plant more trees and gardening in the urban cities. Tree planting can help absorb carbon dioxide emitted by cars and then make our environment clean. Okay. I would have liked here a therefore. Okay. Therefore it is conclusively clear, etc. I would have liked you to wrap that up too. Something like therefore alternative modes of transportation and increased greenery in our cities can help combat the problem of pollution. That's simple. Okay. One sentence just summarizing those two ideas. To conclude, from the reason and solution, that's a little awkward. From the reasons, I guess, would have been better, even though essentially you did one. Still sounds better in this context. To conclude, or how about from the examples? You could have done that because you definitely gave more than one example. So, from the examples given, I believe the increasing use of vehicles is the major source of pollution in the large cities. It is predicted that government and citizens will work together to make our environment. Ah, good. Look at that. What did I say in the beginning? Avoid these words good, bad, big, small. Especially here, it could have left such a nice impression, such a strong finish. But, just to make our environment good feels really, really weak. So let's see if we can come up with some suggestions. What other words would have been better here? It is predicted that the government and citizens will work together to make our environment cleaner, to make our environment more inhabitable, to make our environment safer, healthier. Okay, any one of these words would have worked, but good doesn't really do a lot. It kind of fell flat for me. Okay, so I like this essay. I thought you did a good job in general. Of course, there's areas that I think could have been improved. You should have a good idea of what those areas are by now. Your task achievement was fine. Nothing really stood out to me about your coherence and cohesion. So it was basically things with vocabulary that were the weak areas for me, and I guess to a lesser degree grammar. But yeah, pretty much that. Let's take a look at this car sales. This is a stacked bar chart. Some people have a problem with it. Let's see what you did. The bar chart shows the car sales of Ford, Audi, and BMW for 9 different countries in Europe. Careful, in 2018. Overall, it's not Hungary like, oh my goodness, I haven't eaten. It's Hungary with an A, so be careful. Overall, Hungary was the most popular of car sales and the least sold in Belgium. However, this is a different number of sales of 3 brands in 9 countries. All right, Your grammar here is really in need of some correction. So let's look at that. Let's do it again. What are you trying to tell me? You're telling me that Hungary sold the most cars, okay? And the least cars sold were in Belgium. It's still a little awkward, but at least it keeps the sentence structure. So let's try it again. Overall, Hungary sold the highest number of cars while the least were sold in Belgium. Okay? So that fixes the grammar, I think, quite well. And then this made no sense. This is a different number of sales of three brands. I totally did not understand that. And it doesn't really tell us anything. Obviously, in the 9 countries, there's going to be different numbers of sales. What you could have said is, generally speaking, BMW was the most sold car brand. Okay, I have reasons why I say that. We can talk about them later if you're not sure. Okay, the least sales of BMW were Belgium at 2000. Okay, while France, Germany, and Hungary were the highest at around 125,000. The number of sales in Ireland, careful with your spelling, was 110,000. The other countries were below 100,000. The number of sales in UK and Italy were 90,000, which were followed by Holland and Poland at 75,000. All right, so let me see if you did something here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the good news is that you've mentioned all 9 countries. So I'm actually happy about that. But there are a lot of problems with this paragraph other than that. So first of all, I felt like your structures were super repetitive. Look at this. The sales were this. Here they were the highest. The sales was this. The other countries were below. Like your only verb in this entire paragraph is the verb be. Okay, were, was, were, and then here you have a followed. That's it. Everything else is the verb be. So that sounds super, super, super repetitive. And it's not high level at all when you write sentences like that. Furthermore, grammatically, they were incorrect. So that's what we have to look at. That's the next thing we have to look at. Now, in terms of the organization of your paragraph, I did not like the fact that you started with Belgium. It's counterintuitive. It doesn't make sense to start with the lowest. It makes sense to start with the highest, okay? Um, but to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't have started with Belgium. I probably wouldn't have started with BMW at all. I see here that you have 3 paragraphs here. I would have done this differently. So I'll read what you wrote, but I want to tell you how I do this whenever I've practiced this particular one myself. I have one paragraph talking about these totals, okay? Because you've got this 400,000, 300,000, under 100,000. I would have talked about those totals first, and I would have spent an entire paragraph talking about them, okay? About the totals. And then in my next paragraph, I would have talked about the individual car companies and what their figures were for each of the countries. Um, so when I do the totals paragraph, I always start off at the top. Okay, I start off the top and then the second highest, and then the lowest and the second lowest, and then I smush everything together, saying that the numbers were between 200 and 270,000. Okay, that's why I do that. And then I go into the individual car companies. Again, grouping. Grouping is seriously important here because you have 36 pieces of information. You cannot and should not mention them all. So you have to be careful with what you talk about. You want to focus on the highs and the lows here. All right. So I can tell you first off that I really wasn't happy with the way you organized this paragraph or how you've organized the information in it. And of course, the verbs were a problem. But let's fix it so you can at least make it grammatically correct. So the lease sales of BMW were recorded in Belgium at 2000, while in France, Germany, and Hungary, sales were the highest at around 125,000 each. Okay. The number, how about this? I wouldn't even have mentioned Ireland. Like, who cares? It's like a number in the middle, not important. The other countries, uh, except for Ireland, were below 100,000. The number of sales in the UK and Italy were 90,000, followed by Poland and Holland at 75,000. Yeah, it's too much information about BMW, but okay. All right. Hold on a second. Okay. Belgium was the least popular sales of Audi at 2000. All right, that doesn't work. It doesn't carry meaning. So I think you want to say here that Belgium had the lowest sales of Audis at 2000, which was followed by UK and Italy at around 10,000. Hungary and Germany, no, not were the most popular sales. That doesn't make sense. Hungary, again, you spelled it wrong. Hungary and Germany had the highest sales of Audi at 125,000, which is followed by France and Poland at 80,000. Okay. Ireland and Holland were relatively lower at 50 and 25,000 respectively. Okay. Again with this were, okay? All right, you have was followed, were, was followed, were. All right. So again, really no range of vocabulary or grammar here. And an examiner is going to pick up on it. So you need to improve and you need to increase the range of the language you're using here. We'll talk about it a little more. Regarding the sales of Ford, Italy had the least number of sales. Don't forget that word. Well, you said the sales. I guess it's all right. At 10,000, which was followed by the second lowest in Germany and Italy at 10,000 each. I don't understand that. I totally understand that. Look at this. Italy, and then you said it was followed in by the second. This makes no sense. You said Italy twice. I think you made a mistake, maybe. Holland and Hungary were the most. No, they're not. The countries were not the most popular. The countries had the highest sales at 125,000. The number of sales in France and UK were similar, representing 100,000 each, not 100,000 together. So careful. The other countries were between 50 and 90. Good. I like that you did that. So let me tell you where the biggest problem with this is. You did not mention these totals. Okay. Why is that important? Because this is a stacked bar chart. And what does that mean? It means that you get these totals here, but they've stacked it so you can see what went into that total. So for example, when you're looking at Hungary, you can see that to get to that 390,000, you had around 130, 130, and 130 of each of these cars. So we're concerned both with that total figure as well as what went into that figure to make it. And you did not talk about that total figure at all. And it's a pretty important thing to talk about. So that's going to make you lose points. That's the whole reason why this is a stacked bar chart. Otherwise, it would have been a traditional bar chart with like rows and rows and rows, or rather columns and columns and columns across the way. Okay, so you missed an important part of this essay. So I think I told you before how I would have done it. I would have spent a paragraph talking about those totals, and then I would have spent another paragraph talking very briefly about the individual car companies. So I would have said for BMW that on average, BMW sold the most cars, averaging around 100,000 in all of the countries except for Belgium, which sold approximately 2,000. Okay, because if you look at these numbers along the side. Give or take, it's around 100, a little up, a little below, but it's around that. And then I would have talked about Ford. Ford was the second most popular, with Hungary again, and then Holland selling 130,000. The fewest Fords were sold in Germany and Italy, and I'd say what that number is. And then I would say the remaining countries sold between X and Y, whatever that number is. And then lastly, I talk about Audi. Here again, Hungary sold the most, but this time along with Germany at 130. I would say the least was Belgium. Then I would talk about the UK and Italy, and then I'm done. Okay, so that's how I do this. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if that helps. You're on the right track, but you need to understand how stacked bar charts work so that you can answer this correctly. Okay, so go ahead, keep at it, correct these, and let's see more work from you. Good luck.